Alright, quick video here. I'll be pausing every once in a while, so this way we could speed things up. If you end up with a partial clog or total clog and you're still using the OEM hot end from Reality, this is how we take this apart, my tips, and hopefully you'll get this unclogged ASAP as soon as possible. You'll need a 6mm socket wrench. You need to remove the nozzle. But before doing that, if you do it with this cold, right, that could happen, usually it always happens when I do that, you're going to snap the nozzle. Sorry for the mess there. That nozzle underneath, there you go. You're going to snap it off. So what do we need to do? Before taking anything apart, we need to turn this on and set this to a temperature about 180 degrees. Yes, this is one of the older machines. So control temperature, nozzle, temperature, nozzle, 200 and no, 180 degrees should be fine. What is that for? Why 180 degrees, not more? Well, if you want 190 degrees, you could do that. I'll go with 180 for now. Alright, so it's set for 180 degrees. I'm going to wait until it reaches that temperature. The reason why we want to wait is because if you try to take this out cold, that molten plastic in there is hard. And when you try to do this, it's going to snap off the bronze nozzle. So heating it up to 180 at least is a temperature which you could usually extrude plastic. So that'd be more than enough. If you haven't already, I would say take this off here. Right? And you can. I can't do this with one hand. I'll do it here. Yeah, okay. Right, and take the filament off, cut it off. If you could take it off from here, even better. I can't do it right now with my hand. One holding the phone, the other one in the air. So I will wait until that reaches temperature, and I'll be back. And I'm back. So I was able to take this off, just pressing this down. Now I have a temperature of 172 degrees. So I am going to place my socket wrench here, and not too much force, and it goes this way. Actually, no, I'm tightening it there. Sorry. It should be the other way. There we go. See? That was smooth. That was smooth. I'm going to take the socket out. Struggling here, and I'm going to take this out. Word of advice, this is hot. I have thick skin, and sometimes I can burn myself. If you notice that, it has plastic in there. So we're going to clean that up in a moment. So now that that is done, I'll just say don't turn it off. Just come back here. Control, temperature, nozzle. Just go all the way down to 0. Why? That way the fan continues on. It will blow on the hot end. That will bring the temperature down. So far I've taken this out. I'm going to set this aside. It is hot. And we're going to disassemble this in a moment. This is crucial, important. If you try to do that with this cold, you will most probably snap the nozzle, and you need to get a new nozzle and possibly a new heat break, or perhaps the whole thing. Right? And be very careful. This is hot. This is not for the faint of heart. Alright, next step. With a 3mm wrench, take out this screw and that screw, straightforward. And I'll show you in a minute what comes after that. The next thing you would like to do is, while it's still hot, not boiling hot, underneath there's another set screw for this heater cartridge. It's the same size as this one here. I don't know the size. I would like to say it's 2mm, or it could be 2.5mm. So either one of those. There's a set screw underneath there. Get it out while it's still hot, just in case there's plastic in there. If there's too much plastic, then you need to heat this up again and then get the set screw out. In this case I already had it loose, so it's just a matter of loosening a little bit more. This will come out, and the next thing is you need I'm going to use the flat end of the screwdriver. Where is this at? Oh, here it is. To get the thermistor out on the side. It does have a Phillips size head, but I like to use this one. There we go. Sorry for that cheap camera. I'm going to use this, and I'll get these two things out. This will be in a moment. Right, so now with the 3mm Sorry about that. The 3mm, which doesn't fit in here for some reason. There we go. You get these two out. Alright. Using one hand, so I'm going to have to pause again. You take that out, and this is out completely. Be careful, this could be hot. Here he is. It's out completely. Now I still have to take out those two screws, take that grub screw out, try to disassemble this. If by any chance any of this is locked in, right, you just need to heat it. If you have a stove, use the stove. For the most part, these usually come out fine. You'll see a plastic building inside. This one is clean, but I'm still going to go over the same process with you. Okay? So next step, we're going to take those two screws off and the scrub screw and this. Alright, so I took the two screws from here, right, and I loosened this scrub screw down there, and now I could take this part out, and I could actually unscrew this. I had cleaned it before, so do not be surprised if yours is hard to come out. If it is, just heat it up. Usually plastic will get over there. So this is a close-up. This should be completely clean. Look at the one you have. If it's not completely clean, you need to clean it, and I will tell you how in a moment. For now, I just want to show you this is the heat brake, this is a heat block, and what else is there? Oh, and this body here. Some of these things, they're actually, this one's loose because I loosened it already. Some of these are bad, so if yours doesn't grab onto the tubing correctly, change it. If it's grabbing nicely, do not change it. Alright, make sure you get the right one. You see those things, those grip, I was going to say gripe. Grip into the tubing. Now, in my case, I will see if I have some spare Capricorn tubing long enough to substitute this here. If I don't have enough, I'll just go with the same one. It's not bad. It's not the best. And this is the Bowden setup. I usually go with a direct drive, but that's more for later on. Right now, if you have this as I have it here, it's the opportunity to clean this up. Use a toothbrush, soft bristle, clean it up. Don't grease the wheel unless you know about grease, just a little bit if you wanted to. Otherwise, keep it clean, make sure there's nothing in there, and you're good to go. Next step, I'll explain to you how I clean this with this, using my stove. And what else? That's basically it. The nozzle I don't even clean. But usually the nozzle doesn't get clogged unless it's some harsh filament and it makes a big hole, then I would change it. Still, I will show you how I do this in a moment. So, if this were clogged, which this is not, what I would do is I would come to a stove, heat it up, as I'm doing, right? And once I heat this up, you see that bit of a Q-tip? I just go through it. I do that several times and I'll get the blob out. Usually if it has a clog right there, it will come out completely, and all you need to do is just clean up a bit. But the key here is heat it up, and then after you heat it up, you clean it. Alright, back here. So if you noticed, I use this to hold on to the hot end, or the heat brake I should say. Just be careful. That is not the best tool to hold that. If you have some pliers, something or something you could hold on to this will get hot. You don't want to ruin the threads, right? You definitely don't want to ruin the threads. Let's see if I can focus on that. There, almost. There we go. But then you don't want to mark it either anywhere here. So just hold on to it nicely. Clean it up. It will clean up nice. And the proof that you've done a good job, or that you in this case there's still something in there, is to take that tubing, just put it through. So I'll just do that now. Let's see if I can pull this phone through like so. Oh, found myself a new stand. So I should take the other end. This, and it should go all the way through. It will go through. It will go through. There we go. See? Just this case is a little bit hard. I should do a better job cleaning, which I will do. I'm just trying to do this as fast and quick as possible. I take too much time talking. So the next part will be assembly, and we have everything here. The nozzle, once I heat up the nozzle, I'll clean this up with something. it's clean compared to other stuff. If you want to clean this more, right, you could always dab this into some acetone, a cup with acetone, put it in there, and leave it for a while, then start cleaning. It will come out clean, but it will take a long time. Alright? I'm just at times OCD, and I like to clean things very much. So we're going to clean this up, or actually assemble, not clean it up. And we're going to put this all back together in a moment. Alright, so I'm back here. The important thing about the tubing, and this one I'm going to cut, is that once it's placed inside, this is what many people mention in the forums, this has to be flush. Why does this have to be flush? Because this is going to be flush against the nozzle. Okay? And this one has a little bit of plastic, so I'm going to cut that off. But the important thing is that this here is flush. Flush with the tubing, right? This tubing has to be flush with this, and this will be flat with this part, the metal. Heat break with the nozzle has to be flush, but then the tubing has to go all the way down. What happens if it doesn't go all the way down? Let's say it doesn't go, it's like a gap. I don't know if you can see that. Let me pull it a little bit more. Alright, there you go. You see the tubing, right? So I'm going to pull it out a little bit. Okay. You see that dark ring on top of it? Let me see if I can focus here. If you see that dark ring on top of the white, that will be filled with plastic that eventually will give you a partial clog, and then later on will give you a complete clog. So you don't want that. You want this all the way down, flush with this there, and that would, in fact, will make perfectly with this part here. So let's do that. I am going, first this tubing here, I'm going to cut this part off, and to cut this off properly, you need one of these. This is the best tool for the job. If I use the scissors, I'm not going to get this straight, and that's one thing I want to do. I'm going to cut this part off completely, because I'm going to put this in there all the way inside the tube. If it ends up I cut too much, eventually I wanted to place in a Capricorn tubing. There it is. I cut that off. See, it's nice and straight. Capricorn, and this is the tool. This is the tool. All right. Get this out of Amazon or eBay in China. This is cheap in China, and it's the same thing they sell you on Amazon. Since someone gives me anything, buy it from China. Just takes longer. Don't use a razor knife. If you do, make sure it's really flat. Now that I have that cut, when I place that in here, and I place it all the way down to meet with that, it's going to be flush completely. Okay? And sorry for the quality of the video. This is an old phone that I'm using, so I'm just trying to convey the message. What's next? Well, I'm going to take this tubing out. I don't need it here now. The next part is, interesting enough, you're going to place this into the heat block, and don't screw it all the way in, because you need to put the nozzle. Now the nozzle, you are going to keep on turning it around, right? You see how it stopped because I screwed all this in. You don't want to put the nozzle, let me get this out. You don't want to put the nozzle all the way in. Why? Because eventually you need to tighten, what is that part, the heat brake? Over here. Whee! Amateur video. This is going to go in here, and I need to tighten this. I could tighten it here, but it's not the same. So if I leave a gap, that was something I saw on someone's page, if I leave a gap as so, even if I do place this flush and then do like one full turn out, right, that gap, and when I place in the heat brake and it touches, right, it doesn't go anymore, then I could hold on to the block and start tightening this part here, and I still have some leadway, so you could keep on going in. If you look at that, I would say I still have too much, so I'm going to go perhaps a little bit less. Let me do that off camera here. The way to do that, I just take the heat brake, get it off a bit, and hand tighten it together. There we have less of a gap. My goal is once I tighten this at the end that I will see some gap. If I see a little bit of a gap, that's perfect. Still have the gap there. When I tighten this up completely, that'll be later once it's installed. I will have this installed. I could tighten it, and if I have a little gap, I know that this is actually mating with this part. It's face to face completely. Okay? Now the next step is I'm going to tighten this just a bit with my hand and my wrench here. Right. I'll get this here. I'm going to hold the block here. Just do this. I'm just going to tighten it hand tight. I mean, I'm strong, but just like that. We're really going to tighten that later on when it's hot. Metal expands and it's softer. So we can really get this sealed. Now that that is done, right? Place this here. Now, grub screw here goes up, grub screw here goes up. And this goes all the way in completely, and that grub screw gets tightened. So you could place this on a flat surface. I'm placing it on the bed. Usually things that warp, but it's good for this. And I will tighten a little bit that grub screw, not too much. And then the two screws that I took out from here, I'm going to reinstall them. So I'm going to install those two screws. A little bit off camera, just to speed up here. I have those two screws in there. I'm going to tighten them also a little bit with my Allen. Actually, if you want to tighten them more than just a little bit, that's fine. Just don't strip the thread. Right. So there it is. It's tightened. Now I'm going to tighten that grub screw. Alright, so I'm tightening it now. And then if this connector on your machine is bad, it doesn't grab anymore. If the tubing pops off, change this. Right? Otherwise it's going to pop off. The bolt is going to come off. It's going to mess up with your retraction and your print. This one's okay, so I'm going to screw this on here. Yeah, I'll tighten all this up together, and voila. I place this back as it was, and we should be in business. So I'm going to pause this for a moment to get ready for that part. Alright, so here I am again. Let's focus on this. Tip, before installing this here, put the heating cartridge and the screw on the side. Make sure that the mister, right, that glass bead is inside that bottom hole, and then screw this on. This is a mini paint. Don't tighten that screw. Tighten it up, you're going to break the wire. You're going to have an on-off problem with the heating of this. It might say thermal runaway. It might go crazy on you. So do not do that. Do yourself a favor. These bottom screws, I don't need to tighten them anymore, although I'm going to heat up the hot end. This nozzle I will tighten a bit, and then eventually I'll clean this up. Once it's hot, this will be molten. I could remove it. So I placed this on first. This was tightened, and then I placed the whole unit here. I had tightened this before also. Now I tightened those two screws up. This one's full, and we're ready for the next part. Now the tubing, which I cut, this is not the side. Where's this the side? No, that's not the side. It's this side. This side here I cut with that tool, right? That's what I'm going to put here, and I have to make sure it goes all the way down, 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 down. If you ever remove this tubing, for any reason, and there's filament in there, your chances are you're going to get that molten filament, and it's going to create a gap somewhere in here. So try not to remove this. If you remove the nozzle, my best suggestion is take this tubing, disconnect it from here, and if you take it out and you have another piece of tubing, fine. If otherwise, put this all the way through. It's going to be a pain if you have a barb like on the other side. Remember I cut the piece off? It had a barb there, like this. If it does, it's not going to like it too much. It's going to be hard, but you will be able to clean this. Suggestion or alternative was remove this off, take the tubing out, place another piece of tubing through it, and just clean that out once you have the nozzle out of there. Once you install back the nozzle, make sure you have some sort of gap, so that way you can tighten it later, and you're set to go. So how I'm going to tighten this, turn this on, wait until it powers up. I'm going to heat this up to 200 degrees. Why? I like 200 more at this point. So control, temperature, sorry for the quality again, nozzle, 72, 100, 224, 200, 205, it's fine, 200. Alright, so 200 degrees, now I have to just wait till it reaches 200. The goal is, once it reaches 200, I'm going to take my socket wrench to the nozzle and I'm going to give it a light twist. Do not give it a whole twist. It's easy to snap this off even if it is hot, even if it doesn't have plastic. Okay, oops, I'm going over here. So you just want to just give it a little bit more of a tight. If this heat block moves, which it shouldn't because it's held with those two screws, you need to hold on to that. But with those two screws, it won't go anywhere. It shouldn't, at least. So eventually I'll give it another nice tug here on that grub screw, see if I need to tighten it more. And let's see, I'm going to pause this for a moment and wait until it reaches temperature. Alright, so here we are, 197, 200, going up to 201, so it's turning on, heating up again. I'm going to have to do some adjustment on that. To notice it's on, 196, 97, so I'm going to have to do some adjustment later on, but that's not for this video. So here I am, it's hot enough, so I'm going to take this, there we go. It's hard to do this with one hand. And I'm going to tighten this a little bit. See, I did just enough, that's more than adequate. Then I'll turn it off. But before that, let me just cool the whole thing. Control. Temperature, remember this is hot temperature, this heat all the way down to 0. That way it will, now it's 1 degree LCD, have to go 0. Oh, what is happening? There we go. If you were here, you would smell how this is really heating up. As I touched it and all the oils just start burning. So now I'm going to wait until this cools off, place this back on, and that's it. You successfully rebuilt your hot end and you're ready to go. Remember that tubing has to go all the way down. Make sure it goes all the way down. There is a YouTube video you can look for Cheps. Someone else did a modification taking a Bowden tube, not a Bowden tube, sorry, Capricorn tube. Capricorn is blue, but not all blue tubing is Capricorn, okay? Keep that in mind. It's the specification of what counts. So they took a Capricorn tube and they placed it partial in here, and it's a nice method. I like it. Thing is, at high temperatures, this tubing is going to get burned. It's going to deform and it's going to give you issues, especially if you're printing at temperatures over 200 degrees a lot. That's what's going to happen. But the Capricorn tube is more resilient. It's resist higher temperatures, so go with that if you can. So, or you could actually go with that modification where it's just a piece of Capricorn tube is used, and then from there on and you can use this normal tube because it's not hot up here, where it's hot down here, right? So with that, you can fix your own hot end. If you have any questions, comments, I do apologize again for the quality of this video. I am doing this in the basement of my home, on the floor. This is my studio. Hey, how about that? My floor studio. Nice name. Alright, take care everyone. Enjoy. And if you like the video, perfect. If you don't like it, that's fine. I don't get 1 cent back, so that's perfect. But I do accept donations. You do not need to click on the subscribe button. You do not have to click on the like button. I'm okay with that. Actually, honestly, I do not mind if you don't even write a comment. It's totally acceptable. The important thing is that the information provided here is useful for you, and if it is, that's more than a thank you from my end. Alright? Enjoy everyone, take care, and keep safe.